So like I said in my last video, I'm not going to really do the news until the weekend. Instead, I'm going to just give you some high profile cases that's already happened in Savannah. And one case in particular, the Charles Smith case, the 29-year-old that was shot and killed by police on September the 18th, 2014 on Augusta Avenue near Cumming Street at the convenience store. Now, this video in particular made headlines all across the nation back in 2014 when it initially happened. And this, I actually have the video here. Hopefully I don't get any copyright restrictions, but if so, you can check out the video for yourself at Savannah Now. They have a YouTube page. I will try to do my best to link all the videos in here. But about the video, Mr. Charles Smith was at the convenience store on Augusta Avenue between Eagle and Cumming Street, and he was up there trying to buy some groceries for himself, and he actually had outstanding warrants placed out for him. So that's where the police come in and they try to arrest him, well, get him to the ground. Now, in this whole altercation from the video that you guys are looking at right now, the whole altercation, they eventually got him on the ground. Of course, you can't really outdo 3 police officers. So when they got him from off the ground, they took him into the squad car. Now, I've been arrested before. So usually the procedure with getting arrested, usually they don't even take you in the police car. They usually wait for the paddy wagon to come get you. A lot of people don't know that. Usually if you see the paddy wagon in like the area, somebody's really about to get picked up, and that's kind of odd that the patrol car was going to take the person to the precinct themselves. Usually you don't really see that happening. So okay, now during this time when he was in the car, when they got him in the patrol car to send him off, really shortly after, and you can see it in the video, you can see that these people are running towards the incident, and one guy, he actually runs back. I believe that was the incident where Smith tried to get out the patrol car. Now he was handcuffed. He had his hands behind his back, and somehow what GBI is saying is that he produced a weapon, and he brought his hands from the back of his back, his handcuffed hands from his back to his front, and he was trying to kick out the window of the vehicle. Now, I believe the driver of the vehicle, or really the officer that was involved with Smith's death, is Officer David Jannot. And David Jannot has a history. But before I get into his history, I'll just say that during when he tried to kick out the window of the vehicle, he had the gun in his hand at the same time. And when Jannot seen that, he shot and killed Smith, including one shot to the temple. Now, let's talk about Officer David Jannot. David Jannot had a lot of prior incidents with the Savannah Chatham County Metro Police Department. During his 10 years with the Savannah Metro Police Department, Jannot has been suspended twice, and each time was for a traffic accident that was his fault. Jannot spent 20 years in the Army as a platoon sergeant before joining Metro. He ran afoul of the law just once in his life in 1994 when he pleaded no contest to deposit account fraud in Muskogee County. Jannot explained in his application to Metro that the charge was for a check his ex-wife forged in his name. In his decade at the department, 3 citizens have complained to Metro about Jannot. On 2007, he had a complaint when a burglary suspect accused Jannot of using excessive force in his arrest. And also, there was another one in 2009 when another man complained that Jannot pulled a gun on him after the citizen refused to hand over his own weapon. And the other one that happened in 2010, a woman claimed he was being rude to her during a traffic stop. In all those cases, Jannot was exonerated. And he also had a professional embarrassment. In 2012, there was more than 100 images of women in various states of undress So I'm guessing he was looking at some provocative porn, and they were saying that it was found on Janet's work computer. He admitted to searching for the images, but he said he believed many of them was downloaded inadvertently. So he was claiming that it was downloaded on his own. Now, the lawyer for Smith was questioning how could he have a gun in possession after a physical struggle with police officers that was captured on surveillance footage at the convenience store where he was arrested on, on those outstanding warrants. And what a lot of people been complaining about was, how can you arrest somebody and you said you did a search, but you still end up finding a weapon? And what the lawyer was saying was, how is it a young man whose chest was exposed, whose back was exposed, whose stomach was exposed, whose crack of his buttocks was exposed, who was wrestled down to the ground and groped, who was searched multiple times, all of a sudden have a gun? That was what the lawyer for Smith was saying. And in the 900-page report to the grand jury, the GBI said Smith had a gun in his handcuffed hands after he moved them to the front of his body, kicked out the window of the police cruiser, and exited the vehicle. When Jannot saw the weapon, he opened fire. That's what the grand jury's report said. And the GBI also determined that the gun found next to Smith's body contained enough of his DNA on his grip. So, I mean, it pretty much was proven that that was his gun and not anybody else's, because that was a lot of confusion as well. That was a second shooter, but it was no second shooter. And also in the GBI report, it's saying Smith's gun was found beside the body, inches from the hands in which he held the weapon, not underneath his body. That was also one of the confusions that was part of the case. Now, this, like I said, this was a big outrage in the Savannah communities, because this happened in West Savannah, if you guys didn't know. And with all the outrage, with everything that everybody been frustrated about with the police and the procedures that they've been doing, Meg Heap, the U.S. District Attorney, she does all of the cases, the high-profile cases in Savannah. She profiled one of my friends' friends, and what I can say about this case, that what really disturbed me the most, like I said, I have the link for this video in the description. So if you want to look at the video, your entirety, for your whole self, I advise you to do so. But what really had a really sour feeling throughout the whole video that I seen was one point in particular where they said, where Meg Heap talked about the witnesses and the involvement with the witnesses. And I'll just let her say what she said about the witnesses. It's only this clip is only 1 minute and 15 seconds long. Like I said, if you want to look at the video for yourself, please do. But what she said was,
the grand jury convened last Thursday, February 19, 2015. 45 witnesses were presented to the grand jury. Several witnesses were called back by the grand jury for additional testimony. Witnesses included law enforcement officers, forensic experts, and civilians. Multiple civilian witnesses, some provided by the Smith family, who were personally served a subpoena, failed to show for grand jury. Despite their absence, their audio recorded statements were played to the grand jury. We had several civilian witnesses who avoided being served with a subpoena despite numerous efforts by the investigators with the district attorney's office. They went by in the morning, they went by in the afternoon, they went by at night, they also went by on the weekend. We knew that they were avoiding subpoenas. Despite their absence, their audio recorded statements were played for the grand jury. The grand jury found that citizens, eyewitnesses failed to testify. However, their audio recorded statements were played. However, most of those statements directly contradicted the physical evidence presented.
so all the people that was outraged, even people that was in his own family, refused to testify in court, even though they had their audio recordings. And also what the grand jury had to say among the 900-page GBI report, that Jannot was the only officer that fired his weapon. Jannot is the only officer, based on testimony from multiple eyewitnesses, in a position that matches where the shell casings landed. only one officer, a driver, was present, and one of the two marked police cars involved in the incident. There was no room for a second officer to be present in Jannot's car. Jannot's account of the incident matches the findings of the GBI investigation, and that was another point. His account of the situation matched better than all of the other eyewitnesses on the scene, or the ones that tried to testify or left a statement. And also, the medical examiner testified 4 of the 5 bullet wounds to Smith's would have incapacitated him, or in all likelihood prevented him from continuing to move. And also, it says Smith had a gun in his hand upon exiting the window of Jannot's patrol car. Like I said earlier, the DNA on his hand, on the gun, like I said earlier. And an officer who several eyewitnesses said was part of the incident was working in an area in Sandfly at the time of the incident. So a lot of the eyewitnesses who claimed there was another officer that did that shooting was in another area. And also, a drug screen revealed that Smith had a mix of stimulants and depressants in his system when he died. They showed that in the autopsy report that he had bath salts in the system, cocaine, and marijuana in the system, all before the incident. And they also, what the grand jury is saying, that Smith posed a threat to public safety based on Smith's not surrendering to his weapon while in police custody. His exit from Jannot's police car while wielding his weapon, and Jannot's testimony that Smith pointed the weapon as if to fire it on a public street where he exited the patrol car. So as a result, the grand jury named it a justified shooting, but that doesn't mean that the Smith family didn't stop any other pursuits. They had a wrongful death lawsuit for $3 million. I'm not so sure where that stands as of now. I haven't seen any updates on it, but what I will say, why are they suing them for the $3 million is because of negligence of acts caused in Smith's deaths, excessive force, which he contends Jannot has demonstrated a pattern of similar activities with the police department in West Savannah that violated Smith's rights to be free from excessive force during his arrest. Also, another negligence point, that Jannot had a duty as a reasonable officer to refrain from shooting Smith, who posted no threat at the time of his death. That was some of the key points that the lawyer for Smith was trying to put out. And also, what the family of the Smith was alleging, that Officer Jannot exited the vehicle and exclaimed to Mr. Smith, "Are you ready to die?" before shooting Smith 5 times. And what I can also say about this case, if you've been watching my channel for a long time, you know that I view it from all angles. I view it from the victim side, I view it from the police side, I view it even from the regular citizen or the homeowner side or the regular resident side. I look at it from all angles. Now, what I want to say about this whole situation, and before I get into my explanation, hey, if you feel my explanation is different, feel free to get in the comment section, but please be respectful. Now, anyway, with my point, I blame the police to an extent. For one, when you arrest somebody, I've been arrested before. I've been searched, before they put you in the squad car, they're supposed to search you. So the fact that Smith still had a gun on him, and it was 3 police officers that took him down. The 3 of y'all that claimed that y'all searched Smith couldn't find the weapon, couldn't find that gun. I mean, it's mind-boggling. Like, now let me look at it on the other side. What he was wearing in particular, he was wearing some cargos, and he was wearing a long t-shirt, black t-shirt. Those cargos pants, man, you can carry a lot of stuff in those cargos, man. You can carry about all the stuff that you need before you leave the house in just cargo pants. You could put multiple phones. You could put all type of stuff, man. When I had cargo pants back in high school, man, I used to dump a whole bunch of stuff in my pockets. I remember one time when I was a freshman in high school, all the seniors that was like thugged out, like people would like wear, you know, these cargos, and a lot of the kids over there was like strapped, you know, going to my high school, and it was like, damn, you know, you couldn't mess with certain people because they might pull something out in cargo pants. Now I'm just saying that, you know, because cargo pants, you can store anything in those. So I blame the police, and also I had to give a blame to the eyewitnesses and the people who initially saw the incident after it unfolded. And what they're saying was some people actually gave a voice statement, but they didn't want to go to the courthouse and, you know, testify, including people within his own family. Now, as much as people have been outraged about this whole thing, for her to say that, and, you know, it's actual evidence that people didn't want to show up and testify, well, it's like, well, y'all was so outraged of him dying, but y'all didn't take the stand. I didn't take any stand at all to represent him. And it's fucked up. It really is, because how can you care about a situation, care about somebody, and you don't show up, or you fail to show up? I think one of them, she was saying that a few of them failed to show up. Others had avoided just getting subpoenaed. You know, they said they visited all type of night just to subpoena these guys, and a lot of them just didn't want to testify. I blame them heavily too, because they had their own side of the story, that even though the GBI said that Janet's side of the story was more compelling than anybody else's, I mean, everybody has a story to tell, whether it's right or wrong. It's just your side, you know, and you refuse to testify on your own behalf. I mean, that's fucked up. But I also want to put blame on the police officer, David Jannot. You know, even though the guy had a gun. Now, let me just say this. I'm not saying whether he shot him was right or wrong. I'm not even going to get into all that. What I'm saying is Jannot had a kind of a lengthy history with Savannah Chattanooga Metro Department as far as incidents with people. Now, I'm not sure the extent of the incident where he had with the people, where like the one where he said that the man claimed that he pulled out a gun on him, and the other incident where, you know, a traffic incident. I'm not so sure of the extent with the incidents, but the incident where I seen that Jannot had the whole looking up provocative pictures of females, you know, undressed naked, I feel like maybe he should have been fired then and there, because when you at work, especially if you're working for the police department, you're supposed to be doing your job 24/7, protecting the community, not servicing your meat. So I felt like he probably should have been terminated or some type of other type of suspension. And like I said, this was a big thing that happened. It caught CNN news. I mean, it was pretty much everywhere. They had a march, actually, I believe, for this person. They marched all of downtown. They marched in front of City Hall, and it was like protesting. But, you know, all the protests, like I said, you know, you can protest and protest, but you guys really should have been protesting the eyewitnesses, you know, because those guys had their story, but didn't fail to show up or failed to give another testimony with the grand jury. So, I mean, I put the blame on a lot of people at this point. I'm not even going to get into the Charles Smith person. You know, I'm pretty sure somebody of his family probably watching. You know, I could probably name a few faults of his own as far as being wanted by the police, you know, but I'm not even going to get into that, man. What's your thoughts on this case? How do you feel? Do you feel like I got this wrong? Or you feel like the police was wrong? Or maybe you feel that Charles Smith was wrong? So let me know how you feel in that comment box. Let me know. But that's all I have for right now. It's Pac-Man Jones with Savannah Seaport News, and I'm out.